Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Onyx with my fabulous two co-hosts here.
Hi, I'm Kilobyte.
And I'm Clickbait.
And on today's special episode, we have another wonderful guest with us, Jeremy. Oh no, I didn't practice the last name. How do you pronounce your last name, Jeremy?
Almeida.
Almeida. Okay. Earth names are interesting. It doesn't help that I think I need my optics checked. Shall we get started?
I think so.
Let's do it.
So, Jeremy, we always start off with this question with all of our guests. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I have been a fan of Transformers my whole life. Grew up watching the show. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, I guess, a little bit. But and my other big hobby was playing with Lego blocks and making stuff. And I've managed to finally combine those two things together and have a lot of fun with it. It's been a hobby that's been kind of a godsend to me because I work a very boring job, long hours, staring at spreadsheets and other documents and things like that. And getting to play with toys at the end of the day is a great way to just de-stress and relax and have some fun. And it's gone from something I did just to de-stress to kind of a side business to getting to go out to different conventions and meeting new people and doing fun stuff like talking to you guys. Beyond that, my life is pretty typical to a 40-something out here in Seattle. I work a tech job. I go out and hang out with my friends at a bar on the weekends, and yeah, pretty much. I'm not from here originally. I'm from Massachusetts. Moved out here about 10 or 11 years ago now for work and kind of fell in love with the place, and now I never want to go back home. Although I guess this is home now after 10 years, right? That's long enough to call it home. Beyond playing with toys, I read a lot. I like to cook. Big into music. That's really kind of all there is to me. There's not a whole lot going on. I'm a pretty simple person when it comes down to it. I found that if you just focus on the things that are important to you and that you like, and get rid of a lot of the other stuff going on and don't bother with it, you become a much happier person. So
I agree.
It worked well for me.
Indeed. Moving on to the next question. What first brought you into the world of Transformers? Was it a show, comic, series, character, toys, games? One of the many aspects that we have existing as Transformers today.
So definitely the show and the toys. I grew up, I was a child in the early 80s or throughout the 80s, really. I was born in 79, so, aged myself there. So I grew up with, the G1 cartoon and the toys, and instantly, like most kids at that age in that time, fell in love with them. I remember for Christmases, my parents would have to buy 2 of everything because my brother and I would fight over who got to play with which one if they didn't. Unless it was something that for some reason only one of us wanted, they were always buying 2 of every toy we got. It was great because, one of them would inevitably get broken and then we still had one to play with. So I started with that, and then as I hit my teenage 20s and 30s, I guess for a while I didn't really pay much attention to Transformers. Wasn't a big fan of like Beast Wars, and kind of got away from things until the Michael Bay movies came out, and they were what they are. And it was so fun watching giant robots fight each other.
That is the safe way to phrase that. Huh? They are what they are.
Giant robots battling it out on screen, so it can't be terrible, right?
Yeah.
And
I will say nothing else.
Yep, that's pretty much where I want to leave that. Then somebody pointed me towards the Time Wars trilogy on Netflix. On YouTube. And absolutely loved that. I wish there was a lot more to it because it kind of left me just wanting more. It was a cool little series that could have gone on for a lot longer, but oh well. And then the Netflix series came out, and that was what it was. There's a lot I really liked about the Netflix series. And
Yeah.
then there's a lot that I just didn't like because, like, what were they trying to do with this story? Other than just sell lots of new toys. Which, I mean, the whole thing kind of comes down to that, I guess. But whatever. It was fun to watch, even if the voice acting was horrible in the first season and the plot got a little weird, but still a lot of fun to watch. And then recently, I actually started reading the newest comic series. I'll admit, I was talking to somebody, I didn't really know anything about it, and they were starting to tell me about Optimus Prime replacing his arm with Megatron's arm, and I'm like, all right, you got me there. That's enough. I need to know, and I need to read this.
That's fair.
And yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. I'm only like 3 issues in. I don't know, maybe so far, really good. And now the new movie's coming out. I'm excited for that. So yeah, I mean, it's. I've actually started to go back to and watch Transformers Prime and some of the other stuff, mainly as I build these little figures, and I'm looking for inspiration on other stuff to build, different versions of characters to build, and stuff like that. It's fun to see, how they're represented in these different cartoons and toy lines and all that stuff.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic.
Mhm.
I guess speaking further on the Legos, what's your process when designing these Lego figures? And what's like the most difficult or interesting Lego piece you've used when making
So
these?
designing them, there's a couple of things that I always, focus on doing. I do all my design work on a great program called Studio, which is a 3D modeling program for Lego blocks. Like you're actually using Lego pieces, manipulating them as they actually would, but all on a computer. So it's nice because I'm not limited by the parts I have available or anything like that. I can sit and do it all and nice and neat on the computer. And, that works nice and easy. And then I test everything out with the parts I do have available to me to make sure things are actually going to fit right and work and manipulate the way I want to. But because of the scale that I build at, working at such a tiny micro scale for these things, I want to make sure, first of all, that it's recognizable. If somebody can't look at it and say, that's whoever, then I kind of failed. It's always got to transform, and it needs to do it within the bounds of what the original toys or the original figures or cartoon or whatever it's from actually does. So, like, if I'm building Optimus Prime, I don't want to have to pull parts off and put them back on to make it transform, because that's not really transforming. That's rebuilding it. That's a real easy cheat with using Lego. But somebody like Ultra Magnus, I've got a little more leeway with that, because the toy comes apart, and comes into some different pieces that snap on and connect and whatnot. So I try to limit myself by that and follow that along. As far as unique parts, there's all kinds of stuff. A lot of, especially because I'm working at such a small scale, like all these little, like the little minifig accessories, like wrenches and frying pans and stuff come in to be really, really handy for a lot of little, because they're round and they connect and they can swivel and move. Works great for joints. Probably the oddest thing that I've used a ton of, though, would be actual minifigure hands. Just the little hands pulled off of the arm, stuck into stuff. They make like little, like great little legs for stuff, or like little like forearms actually. And Deathsaurus, he's got a pair of his little, arms there in dragon dinosaur mode there, whatever you want to call it, has 2 little minifig hands that are attached to it, to become his arms.
That's cool. I like the ingenuity of like finding where like a hand would fit or the pan would fit. So that's very cool. And like looking at the figures, like I can see them now where they are, but then like when you're looking at the T-Rex, you're like, oh, okay, so those were minifig hands, but then they actually kind of blended it in and worked as well as the T-Rex hand. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, thank you.
So you mentioned that you're in a Discord group with other Lego creators. Is there somebody there, or maybe someone you've seen on YouTube or you've read about that has been a big inspiration for your designs?
So actually, yes. So kind of more of a inspired me on what to design, I think is the best way to put it. I generally work at a scale that very, very few other people even try to work at. Most of the other people in the group are doing stuff that's more in line with, the actual size of the toys, if not bigger. There's a few people that do some very simple, smaller stuff near to my size stuff, but even those tend to be bigger. But there is one person who, I don't want to say we're competitors, but we like to edge each other on, and one of us will make something, and it's like, all right, can you do it? And kind of push each other. Actually, a fairly famous person, if you are big into Lego and watched Lego Masters, the first season, Jermaine, one of the guys that was on the show, is a huge Transformers fan.
That's awesome.
As a matter of fact, in an interview with him for the show, he's standing in his house in front of a cabinet that's just top to bottom, floor to ceiling, Lego Transformers that he had made. He's got about 500 at this point. I know he's going for 500. I don't know if he's actually hit it yet, but he's just somebody that, from posting on some stuff on Reddit and then on different Facebook groups and then in the Discord server, like, we kind of go back and forth a lot, where it's like, all right, you made that, man, now I got to try it. He was the one too that at one point I had made a bunch of stuff. I had pretty much all the stuff from the 1986 movie made, and he's like, all right. I'm like, well, what can I do? And he's like, how about 6-shot? I'm like, you're a jerk. I don't know how I'm gonna make a robot that turns into 6 different things that's 3 inches tall, but all right, now I got to do it. So I did, and then I made it even smaller. And I think you might have seen the one I had at Sidefest, my little minifig sized one. And then he saw that, and he's like, all right, now you got to do quick switch too. I'm like, damn you. It's like, all right, you've prompted me to do it. I got to do it. I mean, we've done all kinds of crazy things where I've seen him do something, and I'm like, all right, yeah. He's got a version of Megatron as a Civil War cannon.
Oh my gosh, it's awesome.
I'm like, I could do that. Yeah, I can make a tiny little version of that. Sure. And I'll repost it, connected to his so you can see it. We'll go back and forth, or I'll come out with something. He's like,
oh, that's
I didn't think of doing him. Oh, let me do that, and so it's a lot of fun.
Always having some friendly competition is always fun.
Mm-hmm. That definitely helps.
Might as well give him a little bit of a plug. If you look up BX Bricks, BRIX, on pretty much anything, you'll find him and his stuff.
Oh my goodness.
His stuff is absolutely amazing. More along the lines of toy sized, but definitely some amazing work. And great guy, great person, a lot of fun to compete with in a way, joke around with. And
that's super cool. Do you have any side projects that you're currently working on? They don't have to be Transformers related, but
so I've got a couple of things. Coming up in September, just a couple of weeks away now, actually, is BrickCon, which is a huge Lego convention over in Bellevue that I go to every year and like to display Transformers and then other stuff that I build. And I've got I'm working on a couple of different Transformers related scenes, I guess you'd call them, dioramas, whatever, for that. And then I've got a World War II battle that I'm working on, the Battle of Coral Sea. I don't know if anybody's a history buff. It's the first naval battle that was fought without the ships ever coming within sight of each other. It was fought all by planes and dive bombers and things like that, going back and forth and blowing each other up stuff. So I did this really cool force perspective Lego thing. So if you look straight down from it, the ships are really tiny underneath, and you get the planes battling above, and a lot of fun. And I'm going to light it up so it flashes and explosions and some cool stuff there. And then I do have one more Transformers related thing I'm working on. Somebody reached out to me, about a month and a half ago now. I have a whole bunch of Transformers Armada stuff that I did it was requested from me by a guy I worked with who was a huge fan. So I have Prime, Jetfire, Overload. They all combine and do their thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
But the one thing I didn't do was create Prime's trailer and have it so that could turn into his legs and his super mode or whatever it's called there. And so this person reached out to me. They're like, "Hey, could you do that?" I'm like, "I can try." But they're like, "Well, I want it to do all of the stuff that it does. So you've got to fit the little mini con in the back. It's got to open up and be his legs. And it's also got to be a base." I'm like, "It's could take a bit." I'm like, "I got a bunch of events and stuff coming up that I'm doing stuff for." I'm like, "And this is just not going to be easy. If it was easy, I'd probably already have it." They're like, "Well, I'll keep checking in with you." So that's my like, all right, let me go back and put a little more time into that. And I've got a good set of legs at this point. And that's about half of what the trailer is. Now I got to figure out how to connect the rest of it, have space inside for the little car, and have the whole thing turn into a base. But that's going to be a bit.
Wow.
That's one I keep.
I don't know any Armada fans here. I don't know any.
Well, I was gonna out myself, and I was like, "You had me on Armada." So at next Side Fest, if you're there and you have a Jetfire, I will be stopping by the table.
I may redo him a little bit. He's not bad, but he was one of the ones I made like early on when I started doing this. I had only had like 4 or 5 different Transformers, and then the guy I worked with was like, "Can you do this?" I'm like, "Well, what the hell's Transformers Armada?" And he's like, "Oh boy." So I had to watch the show and like see everything, and then looked up all the toys. I'm like, "Yeah, I think I can do that." I'll have to throw up some pictures of the stuff that I have, and you can let me know what you think and
Yeah,
what work I need to do to make it better.
I'm excited because that's my favorite Jetfire.
Yeah, and just to make sure we are talking about the space shuttle one, right?
Yes, that is correct.
So, speaking of Transformers and Armada, who is your favorite Transformers character and why? And it's okay if you have more than one, but let's try to keep the details to maybe 2?
Yeah,
maybe.
I think I can do that. I am a huge Grimlock fan. I think because, what, like 7 or 8-year-old doesn't like dinosaurs and robots.
I don't know
Here we
anybody
go.
else here who's a Grimlock fan. Nobody else here. Nobody else here.
I have made more versions of Grimlock than just about anybody else. And the other characters is my other favorite is Ultra Magnus. I don't know what it is about him. I couldn't tell you why I like him so much. I just really do. I think he's just a great looking toy, great looking character. That robot mode is awesome. And yeah, I mean, between those two, I probably have a dozen different versions,
Right on.
like probably 6 and 6 of each at least.
And yeah, why make anyone else?
And that's not even counting like little modifications to it. Like my latest version of Grimlock, like my bigger version, I decided like I had the arms one way and the shoulders, and then there's one. Is it Fans Toys or I don't know? It's a cool looking one.
I think I know which one you're talking about. It's the one from the comics. I think from the
it's a third party one that looks a little different, and the shoulders are like kind of up a little bit higher and like big round shoulders, and kind of like the Earthspark one. Like in a rough design, but I'm trying to see if I can find it real quick as I'm talking. But
I think it's the Planet X Grimlock or Vulcan. I think it's what they call it. It's a third party.
Caucus.
Yep, that's
Caucus.
exactly.
Yeah, it's Caucus. Yeah.
The Planet X.
Because it's a funny word.
Yeah, and I saw that and I liked those big round shoulders, so I changed the shoulders on the one that I had, and made them more like that, just because I thought they looked cool. And so not even counting changes like that and stuff like that, I have at least 6 versions of Grimlock. Then I have my little tiny version of Grimlock, so 7 versions of him.
Must have all the versions of Grimlock.
I concur. I might be biased, but I concur.
I
just actually got asked the other day to do a recolor of them. And I looked at the person and I'm like, that if you've got the instructions for the G1 version, you want the G2 version, it's the same parts, just in blue. And they're like, that's okay. If you can put that together for me and I'll buy it. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm not opposed to making more money, but you're making this really easy on me.
Well, don't tell your secrets away or anything.
But yeah, like so now I'm just redoing all the Dinobots in the G2 colors for this one guy.
That's awesome.
I'm like, but I got to admit, they look really good, and I mean, wow.
No, they look fantastic. I'm
Mhm.
scrolling through your Instagram right now.
Yeah.
I'm now looking at the G2 Planet X Grimlock. Looks
Yeah,
really
that one was
fantastic.
good.
Well, I don't want notifications. No, block notifications.
Oh, but I think you have
Website.
the next question.
Anyway, okay. Yeah, so those are definitely my favorite two Transformers characters. I never had Ultra Magnus when I was a kid either, which was always so sad. Definitely had Grimlock. I had to wait till the Earthrise Ultra Magnus came out before I was able to get my hands on one too. But now he sits, well, sadly in a box right now, but it's just because I live in a tiny little apartment and don't have room. I have no shelf space.
I feel that. Killbite, I think you have the next question.
Which is perfect because we just talked about characters, and now we go to your top 3 favorite figures, and we just heard about the Ultra Magnus from Siege. So, what's your top 3 figures, and what's your top 3 Lego figures that you've made?
So, all right, top 3 figures overall. I love my Earthrise Ultra Magnus. Oh boy. As a kid, absolutely loved Metroplex. Just was huge and beefy and didn't really do much, but I could have so much fun playing with it. Definitely a favorite toy. Grimlock, obviously, all the Dinobots. I mean, I beat up on those things, had so much fun with them. For my top 3 Lego figures, though, that I've made, I gotta go first. Unfortunately, sadly, it's not Transformers, but it's Transformers adjacent, and that's my Voltron. My
Defender of the universe.
fair.
Right on.
that was another huge thing for me as a kid. And when the Lego official Voltron came out, I'm like, well, I can't afford that, and I don't have any place to put it either. So I'm like, well, you know what I can do though? I could try to make a tiny little one, and I did. And then I made one that was even better. And then I kept modifying it. I think I'm on the 4th version, and he's pretty much staying how he is at this point. My biggest issue with the earlier versions was that I needed extra pieces, kind of like a combiner to put them together. And I didn't like that. I didn't like having to stick extra stuff on to get it to go together. So in my latest, newest version, which is kind of a mashup in look between the original Voltron and the Netflix, Voltron, but there's no extra pieces, nothing. He just goes together, 5 lions, as he is. There's a couple little connectors hidden away inside, shoulders and things like that. But and he's very posable and very stable and sturdy. So I'm very proud of myself, and I just love it. I love Voltron, and I love him. He's just so special.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you can see pictures of him on the Instagram page, especially with me having fun with the fact that the 3D software allows you to create pieces that glow. So there's a cool little sequence of him pulling out the blazing sword and swinging it around, and lighting things up to show off how posable he is.
That's pretty cool.
So that's number 1. Number 2, I'm a big fan of my newest version of Optimus Prime. He was for a long time for me like just a challenge to try to get him so he transformed the way he should transform. Like I wanted that G1, the arms just pop out and swing forward, and like nice and simple, but at my tiny little scale. And it took a while to get it to work out a system to make it happen. And then I started noticing other flaws because, you've only got so much space to work with. So you move the arms out of the way, then he's got this big wide chest and this tiny little abdomen, and then hips that stick out, and he looks kind of weird, and this big gaping hole in his back and stuff. And I kind of worked a way around that with a few little hidden things that flip out, kind of like the new toys do, where, what you're seeing is not necessarily what's actually going to be him when he's done, but it works, and he's now looks, other than his head, which, hey, look, you can only do so much with 3 little plates to give him a head that looks good. But but the shape of his body and the way he all works and transforms and everything, I'm very happy with it. And it's a nice, like, he looks solid and he's posable and he's standable, and even his back isn't just a big gaping hole where his arms and his head used to be anymore, and like parts fill that in as he transforms, and a lot of fun there.
Fantastic.
Probably my third favorite, and again, this was a toy that I did have that I loved, is Jetfire. Such a great toy as a kid. Loved it. It was so much fun. I think it lasted maybe a couple months before it broke because of the cheap plastic and flimsy way it transformed, but whatever, that didn't matter. There was super glue. We went back together. But trying to get that transformation out of him, for the scale that I work at, was just difficult. And I got to give credit to somebody who I can't remember who it is at this point. I wish I did, but they, in one of my groups, posted a picture of this, jet thing that they made. It had nothing to do with Transformers. It was just Lego stuff. And I saw how they did this little hinge for part of it to open up. And I'm like, that will solve all my problems. If I do that same thing, I can do this and put the arms there, and like it all just came together with that. And so I built Jetfire, and I think he looks really freaking awesome. I love how he looks. And then from Jetfire, I was actually able to kind of use that same engineering and scale it down a little bit, and then make all the Seekers. They all work on that same principle of how they kind of fold in half to become, to put the legs where they belong to the body, and have the cockpit as the chest and stuff. And it all started with Jetfire, and I even managed to kind of get the scale pretty good, where Jetfire stands a little bit over the head of Starscream. Is just a little bit taller and a little bit bigger, a little more robust. So a lot of fun there. Definitely engineering wise, fun character to build. There's so many I could talk about.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, they're all so cool. We've been scrolling through your Instagram in the background, and we've seen a bunch of really, really cool things. Can you give us a preview on maybe a couple of the bots you're planning on making next, or even if it's a non-Transformers related project, what you're planning on working on next?
Other than the stuff I mentioned earlier for BrickCon, I really don't have anything specific. I tend to not plan ahead, I'll be honest. I'm more of a play-it-by-ear designer. I spend a lot of time going back through older builds, like looking at what I did and saying, I can do that better. And then like redoing it, or like, new parts come out for Lego a lot, new colors and things like that. So things will just get updated, even if it's just like they only had that piece in gray when that came out, or when I did this design. Now they have it in red, so I can make a better version, or more color accurate version. And then I'll see something, or somebody will mention something, or there'll be a movie or whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, let me do that. I did that when the last Transformers movie came out. I did Optimus Primal, and then I'm like, you know what, he's too big and clunky, let's do a smaller version. So I did another version of Optimus Primal, and had some fun with it. Actually, one thing I do need to do, and do need to rework and make better, is the Protectobots. It's the one original Defensor, that I don't have at this point. I have a version that I'm really not happy with. That's why you don't see any pictures of him. But I know I can do better now. Like I did him early on, and I know I can do better. I'll have to take some liberties on a couple of things. I know that with the way different guys work, but I mean, some of them, there's so many different versions of the toys. Whatever, as long as it's the right basic things, it should all work out, and it'll look pretty good. But I've got the rest of my combiners, and he's just kind of missing from the group. So that's definitely something I'm planning on doing. Always looking for a better Megatron. A long time ago, I had a very cheesy G1 Megatron gun version that was very small and very tiny, and was okay, but just not that great. And then I made a tank version that was cool, but doesn't scale well with Optimus Prime at this point. So I made a bigger version that looks pretty good. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see him. I like the look of him for the most part, but there's a lot of things about him I don't like, and he wasn't very stable. So he's going to need to be reworked too.
Nice.
That's cool.
What were you thinking of transforming him into?
I probably going to stick with a tank mode.
Yeah,
Mainly because it's just so much easier than trying to transform him into a gun.
that's fair.
You know?
That's fair.
And it never made sense. Even as a kid, it never made sense that he transformed into a gun. Like, here's this super powerful Decepticon, and he transforms, and he needs somebody else to hold him and shoot him.
Right. It's very silly. Unrelated, but bringing us back on track with our questions. What is something no one knows about you that you wish more people did know?
Oh,
I know it's a hard question. It's one of the harder ones, I think.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
there's not a whole lot that no one knows about me. Mainly because I'm just not a shy person, and I like to talk about myself, as you may have noticed. But here's a random fact from many years ago that I'll share that people probably only a few people I think know this, and I try not to make this sound like I'm bragging, but I used to get bored and go online and take Mensa tests to see if I qualify.
The what?
You know, Mensa for geniuses.
Oh, okay,
Oh.
okay.
They used to long time ago they may still, I don't know, I don't know, I haven't gone and looked in a long time, but they used to have a like sample test, for membership on their website that would change, like, I don't know, every month or so, or however often they updated it, and I'd go and I'd get bored and I'd take it, because
Interesting.
it
Fun.
was fun to me. I don't know. I like taking tests and puzzles, and so it was always interesting to do.
Nice.
We won't talk about how I did, but because
I'm sure you passed either way.
Uh-huh.
yeah, no. I mean, I did well.
Is
I
it,
did
is
do
it like
badly.
the golf rules where you want the lower number, or is it like the football rules where you want the higher number?
It's an
The higher.
exponential number, so it increases exponentially
Exponential
by
number?
each number. So like the difference between like
90
90 and 91
is
is
that
not the same as the
before
difference between like 100
or
and
after you
102.
multiply by I?
Yeah, something
Hello,
like.
math? Hello? What?
Wow. Yeah, that's
Feels
a
like
great explanation there too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
no,
we're talking about tests and all that. So, do you have any questions for us?
So
I didn't study.
it's gonna be a simple one. Since you guys are scrolling through my Instagram page, what are some of your favorites that you saw on there?
Oh boy,
Well,
there's so
mine's the
many.
Grimlock.
Oh, suddenly you guys are put on the spot, and now you see how it
Yeah.
feels. Yep.
Well, I got my answer. What's your guys's?
Probably the Seekers. I love the Seekers. Kind of
There's
a
a
sucker
lot.
for
There's
them.
a lot of
There's
stickers,
so
which is
many.
nice.
There's so many. I'm so happy. I'm gonna go buy all of them. Thank you very much.
Well, I just discovered that there was an Armada Jetfire, so I'm excited for that. But the first one that caught my eye was the Broadside, just because I feel like I don't see that character a lot. So I always like looking for characters that are underrepresented in the Transformers universe, just because they might have a toy, but it was like a long time ago and they haven't been like updated recently. So I'm like, ooh, that's a character I know, but doesn't get a lot of attention. So I'm glad they made him. So
Right.
it's pretty cool.
Right. Other than that, oh wait,
Yeah, do you have any other questions for us, or just the ones?
any recommendations on things I should build?
Ooh, yes.
Anything you guys would like to see?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do
Have
you
you heard of
have?
the Combiner Monstructor?
Ooh.
Sounds familiar. Thankfully, I have this great little thing called Google.
Do you
So
have the
Google it.
DJD yet? I haven't gone through all the pages yet. Have you done the DJD?
DJD? What?
The Decepticon Justice Division.
I don't know what that is.
Oh
then you
my
have to read the
goodness.
comics.
That's
Oh,
a good one.
They're in the More Than Meets the Eye comics. Not to be biased, but they're pretty great. If you're really enjoying the Skybound ones, you'll really enjoy
Yes.
the More Than Meets the Eye series. It's part of the 2005 continuity, but you don't have to start all the way back then. You can just dive right into the More Than Meets the Eye comics if you wish. It's really good.
All right.
Yeah, they're part of the IDW brand. So it's More Than Meets the Eye and then Lost Light. Those are the two connecting. What do you call those?
Stories, plot lines.
Well, it's just kind of like
Sister?
runs of the, because they changed the name because Hasbro was like, hey, create a new
They kinda go
story, so
back
they
and
just
forth,
changed the name to Lost Light instead of keeping going with More Than Meets the Eye, but they're connected. So
All right.
if
Yeah,
you want to read the whole thing, you should get More Than Meets the Eye
Mhm.
and Lost Light comics together, so you can
But the
really get the
DJD
whole deal.
is basically Megatron's private hit squad.
Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Add that to the list there. Okay. Yeah. No, 'cause I'm always looking for new stuff and
I,
new
I have a
ideas.
bias, and I would like to see Nautica. She's also for the one that beats the eye. So if you make a Nautica, I will also get her next Side Fest.
Yes,
Yeah.
Nautica's awesome.
Okay, so it's like, is there? All right, so I'm seeing a bunch of different versions here.
For Nautica, she should be purple and yellow.
Yep, kind of looks like
It's like a
Or-
submarine. It's like like
Like-
a space submarine.
yeah.
Mhm.
All right, I could do that. That's,
Yeah. I'll send you a picture once we're done. Don't worry
Yep,
about
okay.
it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I don't want to like this. There's definitely more than one toy that I'm seeing, so I want to make sure I modeling it after the right thing, because that would be no fun if I didn't. Anyway,
Yeah.
no, that's great, and now you got like all the stuff that I can start working on.
Yeah, there's no shortage of Transformers in the Transformers universe.
Oh God, and they just keep coming out with more, so it's great.
Yeah.
It upsets me though when it's like, oh look, here's this new Transformer that's the exact same thing as this other guy, just in a different color. I'm like,
Mhm.
well, that's no fun for me. You know, like,
Yeah.
It makes your job easier though, because then you
There's
just
a-
need different colors.
there's a tool in my modeling program to swap colors. Like, you know,
That's funny.
there's more
But-
parts to order. That's all.
Yeah.
Clickbait.
As we draw towards the end of this Q&A, Jeremy, where can the listeners find you? Social media, website, XYZ?
So 2 places. Well, 3, I guess technically, and I don't even know what the third one is. So I'm gonna just now I gotta look because I don't. All right. Instagram, obviously, we've been talking about that all night, which is just Instagram.com at Minilegoformers. Then YouTube, same thing at Minilegoformers. There's not much to watch on YouTube right now. There are exactly 2 videos. Unfortunately, pretty cool videos. The 2 that are up there, kind of a sad story time. Real quick, I have a good friend of mine who I've known for most of my life at this point, who started doing 3D animation, and we started talking about stuff, and he was showing me some stuff that he had animated using just models that he found online. And he's like, yeah, you wouldn't happen to know anywhere that I could find, 3D models that I could use? I'm like, actually, I do. Everything I design is a 3D model to begin with. So it turns out that from Studio, you can export the file right into Blender to take and animate. So he put in a lot of work and did a lot of stuff to start creating some videos and doing some animations for me. And on my YouTube channel, there's a fun little animation of Blitzwing, my little model of Blitzwing transforming through all 3 forms. And then there's another little video clip that's more fun that unfortunately never got to be the full movie that it was, because life just gets in the way and he's had other stuff come up, and he was doing this stuff for me just out of fun and because he liked doing it. And then, work and life and things just have prevented him from keeping up with it. But there's about a minute-long video of Triptychon rising up out of the desert to go and what would be battle Metroplex. And if you look on my Instagram page, there is a image, an actual photograph of a little battle scene in a city, kind of all lit up with Triptychon and Metroplex kind of battling it out. That was the inspiration for the video, and it was all going to lead into that scene and then the whole big battle between the 2 of them. Unfortunately, like I said, he never got to the point where he got it finished, and has since had to go and deal with other stuff, and maybe one day we'll get back to it and get that. But eventually, my YouTube page will be filled with videos of me just showing off the different builds, the stuff that I actually have, and I'm giving quick little transformation videos and stuff, manually, not 3D animation wise, but honestly, I'm a little lazy, and the thought of recording a video and putting all that effort into editing and audio and all that stuff is like nightmares to me. So who knows when that'll ever happen. They may just be a little video of a figure on a turntable and some music in the background as it spins around so you can see it all, just to show it off. Who knows? Anyway, the last place that I can be found, and the one that's probably most important to me, or very important to me, is Legoformers.etsy.com. And that is my store where I sell the instructions on how to build all these little guys, as well as leftovers from the different events that I go to. So there's some stuff up there, actual sets that include all the pieces and everything, usually already built, that can be bought. Trying to think of what's up there right now. I know Devastator's up there, and beyond that, I'm not sure. But I've got a bunch of other stuff to put up that's left over from SideFest, and yeah, those are the 3 places that can be found.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we'll have all of that in the description
Yeah.
for the listeners.
Yes.
Yes, and please check them out, listeners. And we have our final question for you. Are there any words of wisdom or something special you would like to say to our listeners?
I actually wrote this down because I wanted to remember to say these things after you guys, send me the little questionnaire there. So 3 things. First of all, I love hearing from people. So if you see my Instagram page and you like something, definitely comment on it. If you don't like something or think something's ugly or can't tell what it is, comment on it. Whatever, comment on it. Talk to me. If there's something that you see or that you don't see that you want to see, and there's a figure that you're like, I really love this guy and I wish you'd, make him because that would be cool. Let me know. I have probably 200 models done that a very large portion of those are not on my Instagram page and they're not on my Etsy page because it's so much more fun to design these things than it is to create instruction sets. So a lot of the time what'll happen is it'll go on Instagram. If people don't get excited about it, I don't bother building the instructions unless somebody asks for them or unless I'm just really excited about it. So that's number 1. Definitely reach out to me, talk to me, criticize me, praise me, whatever you want to do. Ask me for stuff. Tell me you'd want to see stuff. I love it all. And that's kind of part of the second thing I was going to say, which is if you don't see something, let me know. I'll give it a try. There's definitely some stuff that I have not yet been able to figure out a way to do. Octane comes to mind. Just such a weird.
That should be a fun one.
Yeah, that's just trying to get everything in that shape and size and yeah. But let me know. I'll always give it a try, and I can't promise anything, but I'll be happy to try. And it's always a new challenge for me. And I like the puzzle part of it and the engineering part of it. So always open to that.
You do a fantastic job.
Well, thank you. I really, that means a lot to me to hear that. Yeah, and the last thing is, life sucks. Life's tough. We all have a lot going on, but if you can find something that, makes you happy and gives you a little bit of a joy, do it. Don't worry about, how old you are and if it seems dumb that you're a 45-year-old man that plays with Lego and Transformers, because who cares? You're enjoying yourself. That's how I look at it. I get to do cool stuff like this and go to conventions, and you'll realize that all those things that you might think you're weird for liking or that you enjoy doing, there's so many other people out there that do the exact same thing and are in that same boat. So, don't feel bad about your hobbies. Enjoy them. Have fun. Because we only get to live once, and it's not worth wasting all our time being stressed out about work and paying bills and all that horrible stuff.
100%
I
agree.
agree.
Jeremy, Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We appreciate you, and we absolutely adore all your little Lego
Yes.
Transformers. And I cannot wait to see more in person. And I can't wait to have more time and scroll more on this Instagram you have and look at more of the little robots you got. It has been a fantastic time having you here and interviewing you and getting to learn all the fun things that you do with Lego.
Well, thank you for having me. I was very excited for this. I think you can tell by now I enjoy talking about this. Half the reason that I go to the conventions like SideFest Northwest, because it's fun for me to talk and to share my passion and my enjoyment and share it with other people. The fact that I make a few bucks off of it too is really cool to me. But I started doing it just to do it for myself. So being able to sit here and talk for, God, did we really talk for an hour?
Where did that time go?
I warned you. That's all I have to say. But yeah, I mean, to be able to talk about this and share it and then, get it out to all kinds of other people, all your listeners and stuff is just awesome to me. And I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And listeners, thank you for listening and tuning in to today's special episode. Till all are one.
Till
All
everyone-
are one.